Okay, your task today is to create number lines to match equations or expressions. This one says show each expression on a number line and then solve the expression. Now, personally, I like to solve it first. I like to do 2 plus 1 equals
3.
And does my denominator change when I'm adding?
No.
No, because if I say 2/5 plus 1/5, if I write that in unit form, it would be 3/5. Okay? So the denominator does not change when you're adding and subtracting, unless they don't start out the same number. And I'm going to show you how to do that starting tomorrow. Okay? All right. So the first thing I have to decide when I make a number line is what are my endpoints. So Jaden, help me out here. What are my endpoints for this? I look at my answer.
0 and 1.
0 and 1. How did you decide that it was between 0 and 1? Good. So less than 5/5 is going to be less than 1. Okay? What's my denominator? This is what kids were kind of forgetting in block 1. What's my denominator?
5.
5. So that means I will have 5 equal spaces between the 0 and 1, or between the whole numbers, and we all know that's how many tick marks? 4 tick marks, okay? So here's what I need from you, boys and girls. I need your endpoints labeled with whole numbers and fractions, okay? And I need your fractions that you add labeled also, and I'll show you what I mean there. So I'm starting with 2/5 here. I don't have to write 1/5. I'm just starting with 2/5. And then I'll hop it over there. And then I'm adding how many to 2/5? 1/5. So, and I don't write 1/5 down there. What do I write? And then I would like for you to go ahead and circle the answer. It's just easier when I grade it. And that's all you have to do. That's it. You're done with that problem. Okay? So you have to make a couple decisions. What are your endpoints? What is your denominator? Think you can handle that? Yeah. Okay. So let's look at this one. And do you notice I'm using all of the space that I have for my number line? I'm not making it just tiny like this, am I? No. I mean, it makes sense to use all your space. All right, so let's first of all talk about the answer to this problem. What is it? 3/3 or 1 whole. Okay? So what will my end marks be on my number line?
1.
0 and 1. There's no reason to go past 1. Right. Now the next decision I have to make, what's my denominator?
3.
3. So I will need how many tick marks between my whole numbers? 2. Or 3 equal spaces. Okay, on this one, I'm doing 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. So I've got to label all the fractions this time. And when I show this addition on the number line, it will look like this. And I circle my answer. Okay, now let's just say, because we have to do this later on, that the directions say write this as a multiplication problem.
Yeah.
So I would do 3 times, how many copies? 3 copies of what?
1/3.
1/3 equals 3/3 or 1 whole. Okay? Because the directions later on say rewrite as a multiplication problem. Now I need you to sit up and pay attention because things are getting a little more difficult starting right now. Maybe not on this one. Okay, so my first decision I have to make is what are my endpoints?
0 and 1.
How do you know?
Because it doesn't go over 10.
It doesn't go over 10/10. So 0 and 1 are my endpoints. Notice I went ahead and wrote my answer. of 9/10. Now, what's my denominator? 10. So I'm going to need 9 tick marks. Now, if it's an even number, what was my strategy?
Start in the middle. And
Start
do 5 more.
with the half. Yeah. And then you're going to have 5 sections on each side. So 4 tick marks on each side. And I'm labeling my end marks, or my end points. And then I only have to label every third one. So I can maybe count by threes. So 1, 2, 3. Watch where I point. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I just hop to those points. And what do I like you to do to help me out? Circle the answer. Okay? Lexi, how would you write this as a multiplication problem? 3 times 3/10 equals 3 copies of 3/10 equals 9/10. All right, now have I shown you before that whole number 3 can actually be written as 3/1? So let's just say, eyes up here. Let's just say it's easier for me to work with fractions. So I put the whole number 3/1, and then I just multiply straight across when I multiply fractions. So what's 3 times 3?
9.
And what's 10 times 1?
10.
So if that's easier for you to think of, do it that way, okay? We don't call this 3 ones, we just say 3/1. Okay, let's do the next one. Right away it looks confusing. So I'm going to make this repeated addition to help me figure it out, okay? So I've got 2 copies of 3/4. So 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 1/4. Okay? Now that's 3, 6, 7/4. So now I have to decide, what are my end marks going to
1
be?
and 2.
Okay, well what would,
1, 2.
just a minute. What would 1 whole look like if you're talking fourths for your denominator? What would 1 whole look like?
In the middle one.
4/4, right. Okay? So those of you who said 2 must have already been thinking ahead that 2 whole would be 8/4. Now remember this little trick? 8 divided by 4 equals 2. Okay? So here's what I've got for my number line so far. I made that decision based on, I know my answer is 7/4. Okay? So denominator is 4. How many tick marks between each whole number?
3.
3. Mine aren't very straight. I can fix it though. Maybe. Okay, so this is 3/4. So I have to label 3/4 and hop to it. Okay, are you hopping with me? You're already done? And then I have to count 3 more. 1, 2, 3. So hop again. And that would be 6/4 plus how many? 1/4. So that takes me to my answer of 7/4. Okay, so number 2 says express each fraction as the sum of 2 or 3 fractional parts, and then rewrite each as a multiplication equation. Now, this sounds kind of complicated, but trust me, you can do this, okay? So here's what I want you to think about. Just look at your numerator. How could we get the number 6 with repeated addition. Repeated addition. What could we add together to get 6, Thane?
You could either do 3 plus 3 or 2 plus 2 plus 2.
Okay, so you could either do 3 sevenths plus 3 sevenths, or you could do 2 sevenths plus 2 sevenths plus 2 sevenths, right? And I'm going to put the other way here. Not that we need both of them, but I want us to really think about how to rewrite these as multiplication. It needs to be,
Repeated.
well, I really would like for it to be repeated addition. We'll talk about that. You could do 4 sevenths plus 2 sevenths, okay? All right, but it's easier to do repeated addition when you have to rewrite it as multiplication, okay? So that's why I like it to say that. Okay, now, how would I write this as a multiplication problem?
2 plus 2 plus 2.
That's the
3.
3 copies of what?
2 sevenths.
2 sevenths equals 6 sevenths. Are you writing this down?
Yeah.
Okay. How would I write this as multiplication, Tristan? How many copies do I have?
7.
No. How many?
3.
How many problems do you see, or parts?
2.
2. So it's 2 copies of 3 sevenths equals 6 sevenths. Those are the 2 ways you could do that problem. Okay? Let's go over to 9 halves now. What numbers could I add together, repeated addition, that equal 9? Maydeen, give me one. 3 plus 3 plus 3. And then all I have to do is put my denominator on there. And it's halves. Okay, do you see where we got the 3 plus 3 plus 3? Because that equals 9. How would I rewrite that as a multiplication problem? How many parts do I have, or copies? So 3 copies of 3 halves equals, and we already know the answer this time, don't we? 9 halves. Now I have a question for you. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. So let's move down to the next problem. 12 tenths. So let's just think about the number 12. Amanda? 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals 12. And what's my denominator?
10.
10. Very good. Now, how many copies do I have right now of 4 tenths?
3.
So it's 3 groups of 4 tenths equals 12 tenths. I would like to put this one, no, I don't think we'll put that on the number line. I think we'll put D on the number line, okay? You need a drink? You want to go get a drink? Okay, so I'm going to move on to D. Make it a little higher so you can see it. Okay, so it's 27 fifths. Now I have to think of the number 27. Kaylee?
9 plus 9 plus 9.
Okay, that's 27 because I know my nines. Do you know your nines?
Yes.
What's your denominator here?
5.
5. So you're only doing repeated addition for the numerator. Now how many groups of 9 fifths is that?
3
3 groups of 9 fifths. And that equals 27 fifths. That's a funny 2. Okay, so let's put this one on the number line. All right? So it's going to need to be pretty long. I think I'm just going to make it this whole length right here. You do the same thing, okay? Since it's the only one we have to put on a number line. Now, here's a question of the day. What's my whole number that I'm going to end with?
6.
Why do you say 6, Isaac?
5 times 6 equals 30.
5 times 6 equals 30. Here's what Isaac did real quick in his head. Okay? I'm going to show you using standard algorithm. 27 divided by 5. 5 times 5 equals 25. 2 left over. So I have 5 and 2/5 for my answer. If I'm talking whole numbers and fractions instead of improper fractions. Okay? So the number 5 isn't quite big enough. So was Isaac right when he said it's 6?
Yes.
Yep. Aren't you glad you know how to multiply? Your life would be very hard if you didn't. Okay, so now I've got to partition this into 6 whole numbers first of all. Always start with your whole numbers. In 5th grade, we work with them a lot. Whole numbers go on the top, so get that done first. Okay? And then what's my denominator over here?
27.
No, that's my numerator.
5.
Okay, so I want you to at least mark your whole numbers here. I know that one's going to be 30. And then on the others, I'm just going to count by 5s, aren't I? And then you'll need 4 tick marks between each whole number. Thank you for paying such careful attention. Now, my problem says 9 plus 9 plus 9. So those are the only ones I have to write, except for my whole numbers. So I'm going to count. Actually, I'm not going to count. I'm going to go over to 9. I know that's 9 because it's 1 less than 10. And I'm going to mark it with an arrow and the fraction. Then if I add another 9, what number is it? 18. And I know that's 2 less than 20. I'm not going to waste my time counting. I'm just going to go 2 away from 20 and put the 18 fifths. And then I'm going to
27.
go all the way to 27, which is 2 past 25. And I'm going to circle that one because that's my answer. Now, remember when we did this problem, we got 5 and 2/5 for an answer? If I look at this number line, here's 5. How many fifths over is it?
2.
Just 2. So 5 and 2/5 is the way to say that using mixed numbers. You don't have to do mixed numbers on your exit ticket today, okay? All right, so let's take a look at the exit ticket. I'm going to go ahead and turn the page till we get to it. It's on the back of your problem set, so go ahead and turn it over. It says show each expression on a number line. Now, can you just put your pencils down for a minute? Notice I used all the room between A and B. And this doesn't say write it as a multiplication sentence, does it?
No.
No. So I've got 2 number lines here, and I think we're going to talk about our end points. So we start with 0. What's 5 plus 2?
6.
7. So it'd be 7/5. So what's the last whole number on my number line?
2.
It'd be a 2, because 5/5 is a 1.
Yeah.
Okay, put your pencil down. I want you to listen to me, not go and write that. Okay, the next one, what's 6 plus 2?
8.
8/3. So let's talk about 1 whole would be how many thirds? 3/3. 2 wholes would be 6/3. 3 wholes would be 9/3. So that's where you will stop on that one. And all you have to do is just show your hops and, whoops, that's not 5/5. What is it? 10/5. And then your whole numbers here, 3/3 and 6/3. So I think you can take it from there, can't you? Let's look at the directions on the bottom. It says express each fraction as the sum of 2 or 3 equal fractional parts. So it's just like the bottom of the other side. Put your pencils down. You need to listen to what I'm saying. So you've got to take this 6 right here and show repeated addition. A repeated addition of your numerator. And then I want you to rewrite each as a multiplication equation. Forgot my D. Repeated addition. So the 6 will be the repeated part. Then you rewrite it as multiplication. It's just like on the bottom of the front, and I'm going to let you cross off show part B on the number line. Okay, so are there any questions to what your assignment is? When you're finished, you can work on lesson 2